I'm Dr. Sarah Jane. I'm known for being the founder and creator of Spinal Energetics.
For those of us new to energy healing, could you explain what happens during a session?
We have an energetic field around us. We're working with the things that have either been stored in your field or your physicality as a result.
There's usually a lot of skeptics with new modalities and new ideas.
I think it's really healthy to question things. I question things, and that's what led me into this work in the first place.
Things do change. The world moves forward. You learn, you take the ideas that you've learned and you adjust.
There's a lot of questions in life that we don't know the answers to. And that's what science really is about, answering those questions. But you have to have the question first.
Dr. Sarah Jane Perri.
Yes.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Adam.
For those of us new to energy healing, could you explain in simple, everyday, scientifically supported terms, ideally, what happens during a session and how it taps into our body's natural intelligence to support healing and release?
Look, it's a tough question because I can use scientific terms that, just to be clear, we don't really have science on spinal energetics specifically. There's papers out there about energy healing and chiropractic and, osteopathy or, craniosacral therapy, all these other things, even Reiki, acupuncture, but spinal energetics is quite a new modality still. So we don't have anything set in stone yet. We do have a few PhD practitioners doing some work with spinal, and we hope to change that in the future. That is something I hope. Just because it gives it some, for certain brains out there, it gives it some, confirm something. Some credibility. But for me, what I think we're doing is I think that we have an energetic field around us. Yeah, and that's been proven. And what I believe spinal energetics is doing is we're working with the things that have either been stored in your field or your physicality as a result. So a lot of people have read the body keeps the score, this kind of idea that our emotions and our experiences are like a timeline through our body. Maybe we get pain in our legs and maybe that's related to something else metaphysically. Maybe it's an emotional thing going on. We're starting to think a little bit more like that the body and mind aren't as separate as we once were.
Yeah, integrated systems, sure.
Thing that we were taught originally. And we believe that when we work with the same intelligence that created that symptomatology, which is what we believe that we are working with, that's why people move on the table. We're not making them move. We're tapping into an area where there's safety. And then once there's trust in that area, the protective strategy lets go. And it can do that through movement or through internal changes as well. So, and to create, safety within the body so that you can be the person that you were meant to be rather than the person that's reacting to certain experiences and people and a whole bunch of other things that happen in life.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So with there's usually a lot of skeptics with new modalities and new ideas that come through. So what do you usually say to people who are just extremely skeptical?
Try it. Yeah.
Well, I just tried it.
Look, the skeptics that doesn't bother me because I think it's really healthy to question things. I question things, and that's what led me into this work in the first place. So, having skeptics and people ask questions about this work doesn't bother me. I think some closed-mindedness bothers me when people have an opinion about something that they've never tried.
What's the difference between skepticism and closed-mindedness in your head?
Well, I would be a skeptic of it too. I think to question it, how does that work? It doesn't really make sense. I never knew that was possible. Surely I would know if my body could do that by now. And they were all questions I had and all questions that were answered, not through words as such. Yes, they explained to me what they thought was happening, and that's whether I work with a kinesiologist, a Reiki practitioner or whomever. But it wasn't until I experienced the feeling of energy in my own system. That's when I became a believer, for lack of better word, because people either believe in energy healing or they don't.
Do you think you need to believe in it to have any impact?
Well, did you believe in it before I worked on you today?
I'm open-minded to it, and I have some interest in this world generally, but I'm probably on the conservative end of I
think open-mindedness is important, but then again, whether you were open-minded or not, you would have felt what you felt.
Yeah.
So, you know, when people feel that sensation, which is what I describe as a tangible feeling of energy, that really opens up their whole perceptions to like, wow, I never knew that was possible. I've never felt that before. That felt like actual energy moving through my body. I felt a change. That really starts, you know, getting them to question, okay, I might actually give this a go. That's why I love it, because it's got a tangible
outcome.
Yeah. Whereas, you know, something like Reiki, and that's not to say Reiki works or doesn't work, but you lie there on the table and it's much more of a passive kind of experience, and you might feel a bit rested or relaxed or a bit lighter, but they're more subtle in the changes.
So does Reiki work?
Yeah, I think Reiki works, okay. But it's got a different
vibe to it.
Yeah, I would say you wouldn't get that sensation in a Reiki session normally.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's just got a different access of energy to what we have. But I wanted to make it more tangible for the Westerner, because just like you, like, I don't want to pay $200 for a session. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. You know, like, I wanted people to know that there was something to it quite quickly, especially because people are skeptical of it. So if we don't have science, we need something to make people feel that something is occurring. It's really important.
Sudden experience.
Yeah. And there's, you know, there's nothing quite like your own experience of things.
Yeah.
And I think that changes a lot of people's minds. But, you know, someone who's just closed-minded, has no interest in learning about it, has no interest in being open to it, has no interest in it, there's no point, you know, trying to convince anyone of the work. The work's there for people who would like to, you know, experience it and, you know, pick it up or leave it. I'm okay with either.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'd love to talk about some experiences you've had with like some clients. So what's a really crazy transformational experience that you've seen with a client that's kind of at the forefront of your mind? And let's talk about who and where they were pre-treatments, and then what happened and how the story progressed post-treatment, and if you have some, you know, a few years from it.
Yeah, look, it depends. We've got a lot of different stories and a lot of different client experiences, but, you know, some people are coming in for emotional things, some people are coming in for addictive behaviours, which, you know, people think is separate to emotion, but it's not. Other people are coming in for physical reasons. You know, so just a few examples. We've had young men who are quite addicted to marijuana, for example. When we delve a little bit deeper, what are they trying to do? They're trying to numb themselves from experiencing their emotions. So if we work with the emotional capacity of the individual, then they no longer feel the need to have to numb themselves. So we have a lot of stories like that. We have stories of, you know, one of the ones that comes to mind is a young girl who had just had hip surgery. She was on crutches. They re-scanned. Everything looked good in terms of the x-rays. They had no real physical reason for why she still needed her crutches. She came in for a session. We worked on the emotional kind of fear of having that surgery and fear of being so young and experiencing, it was quite traumatic for her. Once we worked with that, she didn't need the crutches anymore. Now, that's not to say that this is a magical healing modality. It's not. It's a tool, and it does great things for, you know, certain people and hopefully a lot of people, but it's not the be all end all. These are just examples of things that have been where it's been really helpful, especially when there's an emotional, link there, especially like a traumatic link. And a lot of these things are linked to that. We had a lot of success with eating disorders as well. While people were also in eating disorder clinics, you know, we don't pretend to have a full scope of health. But, you know, we were really lucky that people would let them become outpatients and come and see us during that time. And just like eating disorder is not about food, it's not about not eating enough and then not knowing what to eat. It's not an educational component. It's an emotional component. So when you start working with their childhood trauma and things that they've gone through, a lot of them are ex-dancers or ex-models or, you know, ex-actresses or whatever it might be, or just have extensive trauma in their childhood. When we work with that, then that actually can assist them in the other symptomatology that may present as like an eating disorder, addictive behaviour. Even physical pain can be, you know, emotional distress.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of a story recently, like my mum had some challenges with family, and I saw her recently and she was like, I couldn't walk for like a few months. Like just like one overnight, something just like took me down, and she's like, it took me months to get back to it.
Yeah.
But she figured it out, and she thinks it was an emotional thing.
Yeah, very much, especially when there's no kind of correlation with anything else.
Yeah.
So a chronic emotional stress builds up. So, over a long period of time. And then it only takes something quite small to trigger it because you've had years of this build up, if that makes sense. So we work a lot with people with like fibromyalgia, gut issues, because obviously that can relate to mental well-being as well and emotional states and all of these things. So even things like headaches that people are getting, they're being told to go get their eyes checked. They get their eyes checked, looks fine. They've been told it might be their posture at work. Maybe that's a contributor, but it's not the causation. A lot of the time it's, are they in their mental too much? Are they overthinking? You bring meditation and these sessions into it and it changes their whole experience with headaches. So it's about just figuring out what the actual causation is. Is it, what is it? And this work helps us through the field. We have different layers like mental, emotional, physical, soul. We believe like there's karma and things like that as well. So that could be part of your story, and you experiencing what you're experiencing could be what your soul has needed or required to experience. And that's just our belief system. You don't need to believe in that to come and do our work. That's just, we blend both the Eastern and the Western.
Which I think is where we need to be. Yeah,
I think so. I think there's parts in the Western system that are missing. So if you go to the hospital, they look cold, they look clinical. There's not much emotional support. You feel sick. There's no life to it, no vitality to it. And then sometimes when you go to, say, too much of the spiritual side, maybe there's not enough evidence. Maybe it's like just drink this mushroom and your cancer will be healed. That's not it either. So it's about finding the balance between, the beauty and intelligence that people have known for years, say in Chinese medicine, Eastern philosophy. We're heavily influenced by Buddhism because I've done my studies in Buddhism specifically, Hinduism as well. And they've got such, years upon years of tradition and intelligence that shouldn't just be wiped out. But we also are progressing as a society and finding out new things too. So you need to blend the two together. The worlds actually complement each other.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the integrated medicine is really, really important.
Yeah, I think so.
I've got this vision of maybe one day creating hospitals that are integrated hospitals that are built appropriately for sunlight and grounding and all of that, but then also a really high-end medical.
But imagine the results that you'd get.
That'd be great.
The lights alone in the hospital.
Yeah,
you get psychosis just from being in ICU because of the lighting, It is expensive, having jelly and ice cream and things like that isn't necessarily a diet that's going to be of benefit to people.
No.
My mum had just been in a coma and woke up and the first thing they gave her were ice cream and jelly. But, the hospitals that's where their money is. They were I don't know if Arnott's is one of their partners or whatever, but Arnott's or whatever, they get these brands to give you the biscuits and the cheeses and things like that, and the sandwiches with the white bread and, it's not health food, and some of it quite inflammatory, which probably isn't appropriate for certain people. But again, it's a funding issue and a money issue. But also maybe not a value of understanding that can contribute in a way. It's not to say, my mum, they would have woken her from a coma, giving her a proper sandwich. But, if people are unwell, feeding them food that can actually heal them or fuel them appropriately rather than refined sugars, processed foods, And even the colours, there's a lot to be said. There's a lot of trauma associated with the medical field that I work with a lot of people as well, because it's not just maybe that they've been diagnosed with cancer as such, it's how they were told. They feel like just a number in a system. So when you don't feel important or cared for, your likelihood of survival does alter. So these are all things that are really, really important to think about.
Yeah, definitely. So going back, what is spinal energetics specifically?
Spinal energetics is what I call more of a somatic modality rather than an energy healing. So somatic means it's working with the physical body but also the emotional body at the same time in my perception of it. So for me, energy healing just sounds a little bit more woo-woo, and I know that what I do appears woo-woo, but it doesn't sound as I guess, progressive or as grounded as I'd like it to, because we're quite a grounded modality. And what we do is we work with the nervous system. Being a chiropractor, that was something I was obviously really interested in, seeing people from when I was working for a chiro when I was younger come in and not only just get changes in their physical body, but in their emotional states and in their whole life. Like it trickled, it rippled into their whole being. It wasn't just about, you know, the experience in terms of the physical body. And that's when you realize that the table is really just a reflection of their life and vice versa.
Yeah.
So how you can help people, it was just, with such, I don't know, gentleness and non-invasion. It just was something I was really interested in, and seeing the difference in the person as a whole. It wasn't just my knee's sore, can you fix it? I really wanted Spinal Energetics to be something that's a co-facilitation between people, where the client feels like they're just as much a part of it, just as much responsible, just as much empowered, and they're not coming to someone to be fixed. And Spinal Energetics is really, again, working with this idea that we almost have a timeline of fingerprint that's unique to us in our body, which is why when I was feeling you at the start of the session, I was like, okay, this is that, this is this, this is...
pretty on point with a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of concerning.
But that's also really of benefit to you when I do that, because then there's no way I could have known what I found, and it is accurate. So therefore, where is it and how am I reading it? I'm communicating with the body and the field. And by communicating with the field, what do I mean by that? I mean that what you've experienced and your emotions associated with those things have gone somewhere. They're accessible. And therefore we can access that intelligence again and not release it. I don't necessarily like that word, but move through what you're still holding.
Okay.
Like it's like, you know, having a backpack and everything that's ever happened to you in your life, you store. It's going to get heavy eventually. So it's like, how can we lighten that load for that person? You know, and also just have them aware of what's going on too. And it's not that it's a counselling or psychology session, you know, it's more about just having the awareness of what the body is literally, you know, holding on to, and usually for good reason. But it's like, how can we get the body to realise it doesn't need to hold on to it anymore, and you can learn from the experiences and show up a bit differently, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, how are you noticing shifts in people in society based on the work that you're doing? And if this was able to get to like masses, what do you think the shifts of like society would end up being like?
Well, we're already shifting. The fact that people are interested in this modality shows that there's a shift in itself.
Yeah.
It shows that people have this want for something, you know, that's not just this way. They're wanting to, maybe they've tried, you know, this, that, the other, and it hasn't worked, for lack of better words. So they're looking for alternatives. They want to be, you know, involved in their healthcare. They want to be involved in their journey. They want to feel like they can contribute something to that. So to say that, you know, this is something that they can be part of is something that people are wanting as well. So we're moving out from that model where you go to someone and they fix you. I think we're moving out of that.
You fix yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And you probably don't need to be fixed in the first place. Nothing's necessarily broken. It's just
unless you lose an arm.
Well, yeah, that might be. That's a whole nother issue, isn't it? But, you know, like this idea that we're just a machine that means nothing as well, like just this computer and, you know, it's just a physical thing. I just don't believe in that. I don't think it's possible. You know, we talk about this every day, like things like, oh, I feel butterflies in my stomach. It's an expression, but it's legitimate. It means when you have an emotion like anxiety or fear, your body creates a physical
response.
So that you are aware of that too.
Yeah.
So they go hand in hand, and I think the reason why Spinal Energetics has taken off is because people have been searching for like this missing puzzle piece. They've done the talk therapy for years, but there's still something, they feel like there's still something that they're holding on to in their physiology, you know, or, you know, they're trying all these other things as well, and maybe they want to get more optimal health out of that, whatever it might be. But people are becoming a lot more conscious about their health and they're wanting to live happier and healthier lives, which is great because us as a society isn't a very happy one, especially in the West.
Or healthy.
Yeah, or healthy. So, it's really promising to see that, I think, from my perspective anyway.
Yeah, great. So how did we get here?
How did we get here?
Yeah.
In what way?
So how did we get to Spinal Energetics?
Oh, there's a lot. So, obviously my personal journey as an individual as well. I won't go into it, but,
you don't want to go into it?
Oh, I don't know if they want to hear as much.
I mean, there's always good lessons.
Yeah, there is. There's always a lot. But, extensive trauma background myself, so I had to kind of figure out some things. Like I didn't want to stay in that pattern. I didn't want to be a victim in my life. My first step was with a youth worker, which helped me immensely. But
how old were you?
I was 20, I think, around then, 20 or 19.
So what happened?
A lot of abuse at one point. But it's very, there's a lot of people with a lot of life stories that have gone through things like that. But for me, it was wanting to have a different life to what I could have had. I didn't want to be like the people around me. I didn't want to be struggling all the time. I wanted to, I guess not outgrow, but take opportunities and make something of myself and my life. And I knew if I was holding on to the patterns that I had from when I was younger, which was fair enough patterns, or the pain or the suffering that I had when I was younger, I was going to be able to achieve those things, and not achieve from a material success, but achieve, a peaceful, happy life where I didn't have to be worried, stressed, or scared all the time. My mum was always worried about finances and things like that. I didn't want to ever have to live that way. She was a single parent, had gone through divorces, alcoholic husbands and non-faithful husbands, all sorts of things which changed my mum's view of men and women as a result. And so for me, I just wanted to make sure that I could be the best person I could be regardless of those circumstances. And you can't do nothing and expect to have things change. Having that introduction to youth work and then kinesiology, then Reiki, then osteo.
The rabbit hole.
Bowen therapy, psychology. My first degree was with a major in psychology and a minor in world religions. So I had a huge interest.
Combination.
Yeah, huge interest in yoga and meditation as well. I was really lucky to kind of feel like some kind of spark on that, lack of better word, spiritual path, or like, what Joseph Campbell talks about, like that hero's journey concept where you go through things and you've got to suffer and then you've got to overcome it and then you get to kind of reap the rewards of that further on. But, I've never been healed. That's not a concept that's
real. What is healed?
Well, people think that you can come to a point where everything's just okay. And I don't believe in that. I believe that we're constantly growing and moving and our perceptions change and, even past things can come up with a new lens and all of that. I don't believe there's ever a place, you don't want to be fully healed in the sense where everything that ever happened meant nothing. Then what are you? You know?
Yeah, it's more like acceptance or just like finding a place of peace.
Peace, yeah. And people, most people after experiencing spinal, they all say as well that they wouldn't change any of it. They would never have changed it because they know that they wouldn't be who they are without it. So it's about becoming to that point, as corny as it sounds, where you really love yourself, not just despite what you've gone through, but because of what you've gone through. You learn this resilience.
Of the shadow.
Yeah, and you learn this resilience and this belief in yourself that you just can't if everything always worked out.
Yeah.
And life isn't always going to work out. That's not what we signed up for. And that's why I think I was really drawn to Buddhist kind of philosophy, because they spoke a lot about pain and suffering and that life wasn't fair, and not this idea that you just kind of, if you pray, it will be okay kind of thing, and that's not necessarily a religious concept in that regard, but I'm all for people having their own beliefs in that spiritual regard. But for me, I liked that Buddha was an everyday person. He wasn't a God as such, he was a man, and that he experienced hardship in life, and then he found enlightenment. That gave me faith that all of us can find that enlightenment, and maybe not this world of everything being perfect, but this world of inner peace, and that the internal matches the external and vice versa.
Yeah, the Eightfold Path, it's not an easy one.
No.
I went through a little phase where I was like, well, it's not really a phase, but like, I got into meditation stuff, and then got interested in Buddhism, and then I was like, I came across the Eightfold Path, and I'm like, oh, what's that? Isn't it? And I was like, oh, that's hard.
That's life.
I don't think I want to be enlightened yet.
Look, I don't think anyone's enlightened anyway. Like, there'd be such a small amount of people on earth that are actually enlightened, and so it's a nice thing to think about getting to. But if we think about realistically what most of us are able to achieve in this lifetime, I think just having peace about who you are and alignment in your life. I really believe that Spinal Energetics is an alignment for the soul as well as the external. And I think as long as you're living with that alignment in mind, whether it's your choices in partners, choices in career, choices in food, whatever that might be, then you're going to have a more peaceful life. And if you are making choices that aren't in alignment, it's because there's some kind of pain or suffering that's happened there prior. And that's what we want to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. So with, you mentioned that you kind of went down the rabbit hole and spirituality rabbit hole. Then how did this idea begin to form into something meaningful? And like, how much time from you thinking, it was maybe there's something here, to it actually being a fully fleshed out concept were there? And like, how did you get to that part?
It's kind of been an accident, if I'm honest.
Really?
Yeah, no, I never thought about like, I'm going to create my own modality and this is going to be a thing. That never happened.
Yeah.
What did happen were people coming into the clinic, they were coming in to getting, I say my version, I think every practitioner has a modality within them. We're all doing something different.
Yeah.
I just put mine to paper. But clients kept coming in going, I want to learn this, like this is amazing.
So when they say this, what was the correct
whatever
version
I
of
was
it?
doing. Yeah.
So
which is now known as Spinal Energetics.
What kind of clinic were you in at the time?
So it was my clinic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was called, like, at the start it was like a loose concept of chiropractic, because network spinal analysis, sacro-occipital technique, these are chiropractic techniques where they're working with the tonal system, so very, very light touch. And that's kind of where I was devoting my life to at that point in time. But it's quite rigid and you kind of have to follow what you've been told. And I come from an artistic kind of background. My brother's an artist as well. So for me, being told that this is the only way didn't make sense. Mm-hmm. But, there's rules around that. And I was like, oh, I wanted to make my own rules. So to have that kind of freedom, I had to break out of that and create my own version of healing, for like a better term.
Yeah. So did you do it on yourself?
No.
Okay. Is there a way to do it? Have you had it done to you now that you've trained people? How does this work?
You can do it yourself. We're in the process of kind of developing it as a self-teachable, more exercises or things to integrate with at home rather than an actual session. It would be different to a session because it's hard to replicate, because the best way I can describe it is like going to the gym, because that's where I know you from. Mm-hmm. So when you have a personal trainer as opposed to when you don't.
And you do 30%. So you work 30% harder.
Yeah. So to have that person there and that support really changes the dynamics of the session.
Yeah.
And sometimes that push.
Unlocking. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. If you just stay in your comfort zone all the time, we need to push through that too sometimes as well when it's safe and appropriate. So I would say it was just something that evolved from working with many different clients. I used to read books about like metaphysical anatomy and this means that and this means that. And I was like, oh, this is too hard to remember, like what each part of the body means. So I'm just going to ask the body itself. So, it starts evolving, but it's been influenced by a lot of things. It's been influenced by inner dance, which is a Filipino technique where Kundalini activation was derived from, was huge into Kundalini yoga. I was really into Vipassana meditations at one point in time.
Have you done Vipassana?
Yeah, I've done quite a few Vipassanas.
How many Vipassanas have you done?
I've done 3.
Does it get easier?
No. I'm not allowed to do them anymore.
Why?
Because you're not allowed to work with energy and then attend a Vipassana.
You got banned.
Yeah. So you're not, they're purists, so they believe that you only are allowed to work with Vipassana.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you're not even allowed to do any other meditation techniques. You have to only be doing Vipassana. Wow. Whereas I started moving more into Vedic because the idea of doing 20 minutes twice a day seemed much more feasible for me than my 2-hour Vipassanas. Oh, yeah. But they changed my life. I encourage everyone to go do it. But yeah, I'm not allowed to attend them anymore.
What if you just didn't tell them that you were?
I feel like lying to the monks.
They'll feel it.
I did try to apply again, and they were like, Sarah,
come on now.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Bunch of like little monks just kicking you out.
It's really, really interesting. I did them in Wuri Yallik.
I did
one there as well. Yeah. So that was really, really interesting. But I tell everyone they should go and do it. I think it's exceptional. It changed my life.
Yeah, it changed my life too.
But what's worse than hearing people talk about their Vipassanas? I don't know. But everyone, once they go on one, they tell everyone about it, which is why we're talking about it now. Yeah. But it is definitely something to do.
Explain to people, just before we go back to the Spinal Energetics, what the Vipassana is and what the actual process
the Vipassana is considered like the Buddha's original form of meditation. Goenka is the guy that teaches it. He's passed away or left his body now, but you still every day go and watch his lectures online at the Discourse. And you hear him, I still can hear him now going, start with Anapana from the top of your head to the bottom of the earth. It's bringing back trauma memories for a lot of people.
You'd be like, what the hell are these people talking about?
Some people are having some trauma responses to that if you've been on a Vipassana. But, you learn to love it, which is strange. Yeah. By about day 5, you're like, I can do this. And then day 7, 8, 9, 10 go forever. But
start singing.
Yeah, so why is this not ending? But it's basically a silent retreat course. Let's say course. It's not a retreat at all. A silent course for 10 days, and you're not even allowed to look at anyone, so you have noble silence, which I actually really enjoyed that part. And you meditate from, 5 a.m.? 4:30. 4:30. I started being a bit naughty though and not getting up for the 4:30s. That's okay.
Yeah.
Still meditating. Yeah. Exceptional amounts of the day.
I had a similar thing. I started off like my brain would creep in and say, just lie down for a second, meditate lying down.
Because you were allowed to meditate in your room.
Yeah. So what I ended up doing was I'm like, nah, every time I meditate lying down, I fall asleep. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lie on the floor with no pillow, no blanket.
That still would have been a form of meditation.
And I'm like, and if I still fall asleep, I need to sleep.
I like that you're lying to yourself to tell yourself some things, but we all
so
make
uncomfortable.
Up stories. No, but that is uncomfortable. And it's a strange thing. Like, it's a strange thing, but everyone should go do it. You can't read, you can't listen to music. And when you actually are allowed to leave, it's like you get in the car and everything's so loud, and it's a funny thing. But it's, I think it's something really purposeful for everyone to go and do, and especially in this world where people can't sit with themselves, let alone know who they are, especially without a phone. But I remember this guy, he had this like little stopwatch and a headband. He was really serious, and he lasted to day 2. I just could not. I'm like, you've got your clock there. Like, you cannot look at the clock. You'll go mental.
Yeah.
Day 2 he left.
He left?
Yeah. The men really drop off nice and fast.
Really?
Yeah. The women tend to stay
we go
longer.
hard real early, and then we're like, oh shit, this is...
I just, don't think you can...
It's like a mental marathon. It felt like the same emotional challenges as like trying to train for a marathon.
Yeah. And it's really interesting in the sense like they believe that you're shifting through things that have gotten stuck in the body as well. So it's kind of a similar...
Sankara.
Oh,
I digress.
See, you know what's going on.
I know what's up.
So, those things as well. So that this is...
Ties back into energy though.
Yeah, but it does. And they believe that you're moving it with your intention and essentially energy as well. So... and they bring in breath like Anapana, all sorts of things. So we're essentially doing that too. So this isn't as odd as people think.
No.
I think it just looks it can look dramatic.
Yeah.
And also, we had marketed it in a way where it got a response and a lot of cathartic release was new back then. But it's not to say every session's a huge cathartic release either. But you'll feel something.
I felt something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, I want to keep doing more. I want like a full session before I leave. So
well, how would you describe it? Because people always say to me, Sarah, like, what is it that you do? Like, how would you describe it as a recipient?
Well, so you were prodding me in different parts of my body and everything hurt. And then you had these like reasons why they hurt, and they aligned with like things in my life, which were kind of weird. So I was like, oh, that's strange. But like you touched you touch me. The first thing you do, I'm on the floor, you touch me on my left side of my chest. It like really hurts, and then you're like, oh, that's your mum and your ex-girlfriends, and I feel like I'm gonna cry. So what the fuck are you doing?
But to see how like just saying
straight away,
almost an emotional response.
Like,
I haven't even done anything.
I know.
Yeah. But that's because there's a recognition. Of soul as well, and because we're in the field, it just creates that connection really quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I bet you didn't even know that was soul.
Yeah, I mean, I
probably thought it was like doing a pec workout at the gym or something instead.
Yeah. I mean,
but no, it's not that.
Yeah, it's different. It's a different pain.
Yeah, it's a different feeling.
It's a different feeling.
Yeah.
And then we spoke through the what was going to happen next, and I just was sitting there and feeling slightly anxious about waiting for you to do it. And then you did it, and it felt like it's not like my arm was going to pop out. Like it's not that.
It kind of does feel like that a little bit.
But yeah, it was just like the shot of electricity through my arm, and I still feel it in my pinky.
So that was inspired by a modality called alpha alignment, where they pull on all the extremities and the neck to release energy, but through like a manual manipulation kind of idea. It was developed by a chiro, I'm pretty sure, and I was taught that technique as well. So literally everything I do has been influenced by a combination of things and more a synergy of it rather than a mishmash, more a synergy of like what helped me from this modality, what helped me from this modality, what do I see help these people more, this person more. So it's like you have a tool belt that's so expansive it's just, you're always learning though. Like Spinal Energetics is always evolving because I'm always learning. So we change it a lot, which people get,
Well, nothing's fixed.
No.
Nothing's fixed in this world. Like even science is not fixed.
Well, even the field's growing. So the responses that people are getting, because there's 600 people doing it now as opposed to 10 people, that's going to create a different response in clients as well.
Yeah. And so, the vibe of the individual person as well is going to change.
Everything changes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but anyone that's like, oh, you said this, but now you're saying this, it's like things do change. The world moves forward. You learn, you take the ideas that you've learned and you adjust.
Well, we thought the world was flat at one point, So
it might still be, who knows?
It feels pretty flat. But,
I don't know, look at that. I haven't seen any curves out there.
Like people were killed for thinking otherwise.
Yeah.
So I just don't think we should have such strong belief in anything.
Yeah, I like the idea of strong beliefs held loosely.
Yeah, that's it.
So that kind of ripples around in my brain a little bit. So like, if you have a view on the world, it's like, this is my view and I'm going to hold to it. But if you give me new information,
I'm always open
I'm open to changing my model of the world. And I think, especially these days, people get very fixed in they're like, oh, I've spent all this mental energy getting to this point. I don't have to think anymore. And I think that's the problem more than anything. Like, I don't want to have my worldview challenged, because then I have to like go through all the mental effort of rethinking through everything I got to. And what if I'm wrong? And what if I've like lived this whole life of being wrong? And people freak out.
And also fear of being wrong.
Yeah. And also, a lot of them are just trying to survive, just trying to get through day to day. I listened to this podcast recently that spoke about there's like a 10% that makes change, and then like 10 or 20% on either side of like an aisle of like an idea, conservative or like a liberal or like, science and energy. There's 20% on either side, and then there's like the 60% majority that kind of just follow what they're told.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people don't want to have to think because they're just trying to get by day to day. So it makes a lot of sense.
It takes energy to think.
It takes a lot of energy to think. And it's hard.
And it takes a lot of energy to change.
Yeah. Yeah. So it makes sense.
Yeah, like none of us particularly love to change.
I love it.
Well, because you're used to the muscle.
Yeah.
So now growth would have to be a value of yours.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Every day.
Whereas it's not a value for a lot of people.
Try and be a little bit better every single day.
Oh, you'd be fun to live with, wouldn't you?
Depends. I either piss you off a lot or change your life. There's no middle ground. People that are close to me. So
no, you just have a mindset in that way, but not everyone necessarily is that way. A lot of people who see me, they're exhausted from their pain or life.
Yeah.
So, that's what's drawn them in rather than a belief in energy.
Just quickly though, I love doing this podcast. If it's positively impacted you in some way and you would like to support us, please subscribe. By subscribing, it allows us to build a much bigger base of listeners, which results in better guests, better production, and a better show overall. Alternatively, please take a look at the affiliate links of the products that I use and love in the comments below and consider purchasing using those links. They'll give you a discount and they'll also provide the podcast a small kickback. These are two very easy ways for you to support us as we continue to grow the podcast that we absolutely love doing. Thank you for your support. And now back to the episode.
Yeah. So I want to go down this energy kind of route a little bit, and with a bit of an anecdote going back to the Vipassana. So I'm a very, basically the story here on this kind of like esoteric Eastern medicine side of things is like I was 18, started engineering, so I've got an engineering degree. So the first
explains a lot.
Yeah, it was like if I don't see it and I don't know it and there's no studies, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then I started meditating. And then I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is going against everything I believed. And then more and more, the more open I became to the world, the more like strange things started to happen. And the more like, and then dabbled with hallucinogens and just like began to explore, and then things would start to just like move in ways that I was not expecting or didn't understand. And then I realized there was a hell of a lot more going on than I could see and understand, and I needed to tap into some form of like sensing. Take a step back. My mum was super religious, so I was forced into that and I rejected that. So anything esoteric was disgusting to me for a while there. Became very science driven, and then I've kind of come back into like, now I'm just sitting in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
But the Vipassana was one of the first times where I felt energy on a very subtle level. Now, anyone listening to this is going to be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? I am the most scientifically driven person ever. I felt this little form of, I felt buzzing, this buzzing in my body for 8 days straight.
Yeah. But that feeling was enough to change your whole belief system.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I could say to you, hey, you're going to go on this thing and you might feel energy or a bit of buzzing.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's not the experience.
I felt my cells vibrating.
Yeah, you felt the experience.
Literally. Yeah. And then, that was the moment where I'm like, oh, there's so much. Like, I got to listen to this more. And then I got back to my house in Geelong, and I just got hit with this thick wave of just like punch in the face of just negative, thick energy. And I was like, how have I lived here?
It's been your whole life.
It's been years. Yeah. And then now I've been a lot more receptive to it, and also working on my gut. So working on like the gut.
Well, we found a bit of gut stuff, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, there's already a bit that's probably better than it has been. But just working on the gut and just like it separating just the gut anxiety from probably like poor gut health to being able to trust the gut and listen to it, like pulling those apart has been also super valuable. So now that was a bit of a rant, but what I wanted to ask you was talking about the energetic field, talking about understanding the subtle energies. From your experience, how does somebody access that, and what does it feel like from you?
Look, there's different ways. If you're looking to access it yourself, meditation was the first thing for me that I felt it, similar to your story. It was just such a great introduction to something bigger than myself. Yoga as well was something that really helped me. I remember like doing yin yoga and like like having an emotional breakdown for a week after and couldn't figure out why, because you're like working with all these fascia. And again, that idea of emotions being stored in the body, and yoga was developed, you know, all those years ago because they understood there was a relationship between energy and the body and emotions. That's why certain postures or asanas create certain experiences. So again, this is all wisdom that's out there. I didn't create any of this wisdom as such. I'm just utilizing things that are in there and kind of, you know, talking about them in a way that makes sense to us now. But network spinal as well, I always pay tribute to chiropractic in that regard. Definitely, like, never would have believed in chiropractic either. Again, changed my life. Doesn't matter what people say, whether they say they don't believe in chiro or not. I don't care, because I had my own experience with it that was so paramount that you care less what people think in that regard. But I just find it interesting that our belief systems just get in the way of us experiencing things that can just be so expansive for us. But in terms of spinal energetics, for me, just seeing the changes in people from seeing them properly and being seen properly. The field doesn't lie. What it is exactly, I can't tell you. I can give you ideas of what I think it is, but I can't tell you what it is. Sorry. But for me, you know, Dr. Joe Dispenza has done some really great work in this area by, you know, doing a lot of science, or trying to explain it in a scientific way and in a way to the masses. But I don't know if you've ever been to one of his 7-day retreats, but
have you?
Yeah, incredible.
It's worth it?
Yeah, definitely worth it.
Yeah, wow.
My whole body just went by the end of it. Like, he talks about becoming supernatural, and you literally do. Like, it was incredible. But
have you done any Tony Robbins?
Yeah, I did a lot of Tony Robbins.
Did you Date with Destiny?
Yeah, I haven't done Date with Destiny. I've done UPW.
In
did you go to America?
Yeah.
I was meant to go to that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I met you there.
Oh,
we were always going to cross, eventually,
yeah,
it was always going to cross paths.
I've always wanted to do Date with Destiny, but
how did they go differently? I'd be curious to understand.
Tony and Joe. Joe's there the whole time from start to finish, which I was just really impressed with as a practitioner, to be able to hold space the whole time for hours on end. Like,
how long are the
every
days?
day, 7.
How long are the days?
Like, long.
12 hour plus?
Not as long as that. I'd say 10 hours.
10, 8, like,
I know.
Crazy hours.
Crazy.
12 till
Still
3
pretty crazy.
AM.
He does a pineal gland meditation. You have to get up at like 4, be there at 4, and he runs it for 3 hours straight. Like, you can't go and do that and not believe in meditation. Like, you just can't. And that's the thing. Like, I just hate talking about it like it's a belief system, but I guess it is still at this point in time for a lot of people, so I have to refer to it that way.
It's a tool, right?
It is a tool, but for some reason, because it's not as easily seen, it's considered a belief system.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
I've thought about this a fair bit, and anyone that says, I can't meditate or whatever, my response to them every time is, if you went to the gym once, came out of the gym, would you be like, oh, I didn't get muscly, I can't gym?
I do that now.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed every time. I'm like, I just work my ass off there. But it's true. It's getting worse because we're in this instant gratification society. But that's also one of the reasons I made spinal as tangible as it is. Because if I don't grab their intention within like a minute,
it's over.
They're gone.
Yeah.
And that's really why you need to grab something, and it needs to be quick and efficient, but not so quick and efficient that you're losing the quality or the integrity of the work.
Yeah, it's a fine line.
Exactly. So similar to like Johnny Pollard and what he did with like Vedic, and bringing that over in the sense of, 2 20-minute times a day for meditating with a mantra is just so much more accessible to the Westerner than 2 hours of Vipassana. So
I don't think I ever did it. I think I tried one day.
I did, and it's just hard because you have to be immersed in that environment.
Yeah.
And you have to think about that as well. Like, how can we get these results when people are going back home to their families with their kids or with their husband or with with the triggers? Like, how can we get this to work with that? And that's what I love about this work. It's so efficient yet deep. And yet still has so much, mastery behind it. Like, you're not going to just be good at this either. So yes, we've had 600 people go and do our course, but you're not going to come and do a 4-day course and be a great practitioner. You have to really be consistent. You know, Robert Greene talks about it in Mastery, about how long it takes and how many hours it takes to dedicate yourself to a practice to be any good at it. And this is no different. It's an art form.
Yeah, definitely. So what type of person with what type of challenges will benefit the most from, energy healing and spinal energetics? And what kind of challenges do they usually face with your work?
The challenges can be they're fearful of what's going to come up.
So they resist.
Or there's like this anxiety about what could come up and not wanting to feel what could come up.
Yeah.
Like
on camera.
Yeah. But it's good because, yes, there's a sense of you because you're a growth mindset kind of person. It's like, I want to overcome this. But even there's a fear of not being in control, what to expect. And every session is different, so you'll never be able to expect what's going to happen.
It's more of an embarrassment for me. Like if I let go or release, I feel embarrassed.
Yeah, but a lot of people do. That's why we do group sessions and things too sometimes. Because if you see another man crying and expressing,
loser.
You're more likely. He's more likely to invite you to do the same if it's necessary. Yeah. We don't want people just doing that unnecessarily, but we want, if they feel like it's going to process something, then we want that to be in that safety. But it's also, we're told, that's a Western society thing. Whenever I volunteered in India and done work like this, even in the Philippines, the kids weren't worried about expressing their emotions.
Right.
No, they will cry straight away, move through it, express so beautifully about what they've experienced. Their bias are just so small, and they're not stoic because they're not expected to be in certain cultures, where our culture is very much like be strong, be, chin up, like, don't express emotion unnecessarily, being a sook. Australian culture is pretty interesting in that aspect, which is why, we do one-on-one sessions as well. Sometimes that's of more help for people to feel like they're not on display.
Yeah.
So, for example, if we weren't recording, I probably would have pushed you a little bit harder and got you, to delve into that, because we're working with the emotional layer, which is why emotions came up. And so that was going to shift that experience for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's why we have them in the first place. It's why we cry when we're sad. But it's also, we can cry when we're happy. The tears aren't it. It's
the release.
It's the connection to what it's held.
Yeah, the story.
The story.
Sure.
And we change the story too.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah. We're very malleable in our brains and our...
But we change the story without even talking about it.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Like we're trained in this way where you have to talk over and over again, and to kind of me express something differently to you for you to understand it, and then maybe possibly change the perception of it. But this is through the actual body.
Humans are crazy.
Yeah.
We're nuts.
I don't know what we're doing.
No idea. I love it though.
It's all a joke.
Yeah, probably is, to be honest. We're all just in our meat suits rolling around.
What we're doing.
Making meaning out of chaos.
Yeah, like every day when I do this work still, I still am astonished by it.
Yeah.
And that's why I still do it. The day I'm bored of it, the day I don't want to do it anymore, I won't.
I think that's a Drake lyric.
Yeah.
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 When I stop having fun with it, I'll be done with it.
Who says that?
Drake.
Oh, God. I'm a rapper. Yeah. Maybe that's the next step.
Maybe I'm magic.
I reckon I could if I really wanted to. No one wants to see that.
I'd watch that.
To laugh. Yeah.
Hey, I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah. Just bringing joy to the people.
Exactly. So I was thinking, you made a point before about that I wanted to dig into, which was kind of around this idea that you don't always have to cry. You don't always have to have this big meaningful release for things to be effective. And I think the challenge with a lot of the spiritual teachings and how people attach a lot to them, and everything needs to be solved in this expansive universe resolving way. And it's a lot of the times it's not that deep.
Some of the most beautiful sessions I've had are ones where I've felt an emotion, but I haven't yelled and screamed, or I felt something shift in me. I didn't jump off the table, So Bigger is not better. Larger does not equate to more stuff being moved either. In fact, a lot of the time I have to train our practitioners because they want to touch the body all the time or touch off the field all the time. You've got to actually train them to just let the person be. Because it's in those moments where they're with themselves that it actually shifts and they figure it out. Instead of you constantly doing something to the system or trying to. I don't believe that's what we do. But they think that they've got to, it's like a yoga class where the teacher just talks through the whole class. It's really irritating. Like you can always tell a new yoga teacher because they talk. They can't sit with the space.
Yeah.
And it's actually in the space where the magic happens.
Yeah.
And that's where we've got to train our practitioners to get out of their ego and out of that thing where they still think they're doing something magical or they're creating something. No, you're co-facilitating, but it's bigger than you.
Yeah.
Let that take charge rather than you.
Yeah. It's bringing up a comment that going down Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny, he was talking about this exact thing where he used to kind of like get to these points of breakthrough. He uses breakthrough a lot. And he would like push them through and then they would not actually integrate anything into their life in the future. But as he's gotten older and I think the ego's begun to like shift, he has been able to acknowledge where they are, get them to the point of like say the door and then just wait for them to like step through. And in the process of stepping through, he mentioned that he's noticed a lot more like lasting change.
Yeah.
Which is
he's
important.
Incredible. He changed my life. Like I don't care what anyone says. I was 14 when I was given my first CD of Tony Robbins. My brother had just listened to it.
Bad.
Yeah, my brother had listened to it. He started his business because he listened to that CD. So he made me a copy when you could burn CDs. Yeah, remember that? Yeah. And I used to listen to it in the car over and over again. And my brother and I still have personal jokes from it because we remember it like so clearly, word for word. Yeah. And it just changed my life.
So I mean, I feel like that's a very lucky gift to have been given at 14.
Oh yeah, I come from a pretty fringe family.
That's great.
Not your typical family. My mum was the one that was actually more interested in Buddhism when I was younger. So she didn't know much about it. She always would say like, if I was ever to pick any religion, it would always be that. And she'd come from a very strong religious, Salvation Army background. Sure. And so she rejected religion quite strongly. And as a result, so did I. But that was just because of, abusive situations in that experience. And that's then correlated to the religion in her mind.
Yeah, sure.
So I was always I wasn't anti-religious, I was anti-doctrine. But yeah, Buddhism seemed like such a beautiful thing to believe in, and that's not to say that doesn't exist within that faculty. It does as well.
I feel like it exists with everything. It's just humans. Yeah, exactly.
It's not the religion or the spiritual concept. It's the humans.
Yeah, human interpretation.
Yeah, we're flawed. We are. So everything that we touch is going to be as well. Even Spinal Energetics is flawed because we're human beings. That's okay. I'm always open to that, and that's why it changes too. But I can't remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, Tony Robbins. So I did a UPW online, which I never thought would work. Incredible. One of the reasons I actually started our online clinic and online sessions was because of how successful that UPW was for me. Yeah. I just loved it. And he did an NLP thing, a belief change, and that lasted.
What was it?
It was. I think it's like timeline therapy in terms of NLP wording, but he did something, and I won't go into the belief because it's a bit depressing, but it was a belief that was really strongly like getting me every day. And I've never had that belief again since.
So
ever.
Run me through this.
He like does this. Yeah, I can't even, it's like a blur.
Wow.
Yeah. But if he didn't do that though, or it didn't seem to have the same effect when I went to the one in Sydney. Okay. I don't know why. Maybe the belief
Maybe
didn't.
He was gone. And
I don't know, but it was a different belief.
Time?
Yeah. But the first one, without a doubt, without any conscious trying, just never felt that way ever again. So I had a really big change then. But the in-person was amazing as well. Remember, we're all It's like you're high on Tony Robbins. You know, it's like you've drank the Tony Robbins Kool-Aid.
And then they upsell.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, you got to stay away with that. Yeah, because you're high. You know?
You are. Yeah,
like you can feel your state of consciousness. Yeah, but they do.
And then they
buy these.
I was impressed. I was like,
I'm not quite in line with that, but I like it. But I did the fire walking as well, which was pretty cool. Yeah. But just again, it's just little things that what you think you're possible of doing, and then going outside of that. I think having that mindset's helped me a lot in terms of, you know, a business owner and always being willing to grow this and not being fearful about trying to get this global and even being seen, like as a practitioner doing this work.
It's a lot of haters.
I used to be really embarrassed. Like, it took a lot for me to put my face and everything to it. But my belief's stronger. My understanding of the work's stronger than what anyone says.
Yeah.
So, but it's a lot to put your face out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Social media.
It's a wild beast, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I used to get like so much like, you're too fat, you're too skinny, you should go kill yourself, like you're a charlatan, you're taking people's money, you should be ashamed of yourself. Like, okay.
I just start fighting people in the comments. It's so funny.
I don't even say anything because they're in their mum's basement. You know? Well, it's never a real person.
Yeah.
It's always some fake
NPC.
account. Yeah, don't know. So
don't take criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from.
No, but it took a lot too. Like you have to grow skin, around that and being seen and being okay with what anyone being able to say anything about anything.
Yeah.
Especially something you're so. Yeah, it's a vulnerable thing to share. Yeah. Like I look at Spinal as like my child almost. Yeah. Child of whatever, but it's for me it's my whole life, so it means a lot to me. Yeah. And to the people that work with it and practice it, you know, and I want to be that for my practitioners and the students and also the clients.
Yeah.
That's why I do this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got a theory around a lot of these things that are a bit more like newer, fresh, esoteric, a little bit strange compared to what's like usually accepted. And I think the anecdotal responses and the following that gets naturally developed of things that just naturally work is kind of half the proof. Mm-hmm. You know, if it was complete bullshit, people wouldn't resonate because it wouldn't be spreading, because people wouldn't talk about it because it would suck.
Yeah.
So if there's in that alone, the fact that, you know, you've built a pretty significant following across all the socials, and you're building this community that seems to be consistently growing. Yeah. Just that fact alone shows that there's something in it. Whether it's 80% right or 70%, it doesn't matter. Even if it's a net positive. Yeah. And it's spreading and the
But people would say the same about placebo and things like that. Like a placebo still does that, and the power of the mind, and I'm not underestimating.
Can you tap into placebo every day? You need tools.
So, no.
You need tools to tap into these things.
Yeah.
Joe Dispenza's pretty much majority placebo, but he's
amazing.
But it's powerful.
Yeah. Oh, but that's the thing. The results occur regardless. That's what people need to
framework.
Focus on.
Even if it's a framework to let your body work on placebo, and you have meaningful change in it, who gives a shit?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people still do. That's the problem.
What are their metrics of success then?
I don't know. But a lot of even pharmaceuticals out there, we don't know the mechanism of action, or, we know they work, but we don't really know how or why. There's a lot of questions in life that we don't know the answers to. And that's what science really is about, answering those questions. But you have to have the question first.
Yeah.
So that's also why we don't have any science yet. This has not become much of a field yet where people are wanting to actually ask those questions.
Yeah.
So we need to wait for that. But I've got no doubt that will come. But it's also not a huge driver for me.
Doesn't matter. You can still do the work without.
Yeah. I'd like it. It'd be nice. But it's not. My goal isn't to prove people that this is right.
Yeah.
Because already I'm in a bit of a pickle if I'm doing that, aren't I? It takes me away from what's actually important for me.
Yeah, which is just helping people and letting them decide.
That's why I started teaching it as well, because it could be so much more than me just seeing, however many clients from my studio in Melbourne. How can more people access this work? Well, it needs to be bigger than me, so I need to teach it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, that makes sense. So for someone interested in exploring, say, energy healing, whether with you specifically or just generally...
Well, they won't be seeing me.
Okay, let me rephrase it then. Somebody interested in exploring energy healing through Spinal Energetics, or just any modality, or just understanding these weird ideas that we've been saying where we're vibrating and shit like that. What initial steps or simple practices would you recommend?
Oh, look, there's so much out there. If anything, there's a lot now. Word of mouth is always good. Go to someone maybe that someone you know has recommended, I don't care if it's spinal or something else. If someone's getting changed through something to do with energetics, then go see it, go try it. But yeah, definitely try a Spinal Energetics practitioner. We've got them all over the world in online sessions as well. So if you're curious, definitely have a look at that. We've got a clinic here in Melbourne in Richmond with some of my best practitioners as well. So definitely try that. Joe Dispenza's meditations are accessible everywhere. I think. Do
you have a recommendation of one of his meditations? Because I haven't done any Joe Dispenza work.
He's got a few, but there's one called Blessing the Energy Centers, which is really interesting. Blessing the Energy Centers.
Just on YouTube?
You might have to purchase it from his store, but you can do that quite easily.
Just burn me a CD.
Yeah, I would if I could. They're all files now. But that's a really great meditation, and it's basically working with the chakras, but he calls it energetic centers because even chakras have a connotation to it. So he's done a really good job in marketing that. Kundalini yoga, I'm always a huge advocate for, to go and have a try of that if you don't believe in energy as well. Yeah, really interesting.
That scares me a little bit.
It's so much changed my life. And again, that's got a whole nother association with it that, is understandable too. But in terms of my journey and the work itself, it really helped. Or just yoga, yin yoga is really exceptional too. What scares you about the Kundalini?
I just have this fear that I'm just going to randomly orgasm somewhere. Something's going to happen.
Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, because I haven't let it.
I think, well, again, that's just an energy release. It's a build-up of energy, that's a release. So, don't be ashamed of yourself there. But there's a lot of, there's some great Kundalini teachers, but yoga in general is just really, it really helps blend that idea of the mind and the body and working with something outside of that. Even Sanskrit is a language that's based upon energy, so when you hear the mantras and you hear someone chanting, you feel it in your whole body. You cry, you feel things because there's an energetic association with every sound, with every syllable, which I love. I love that there's meaning in everything in all the other traditions. We've become a meaningless society. So this is my version of creating some meaning for people and myself.
I mean, sound is, again, just energy.
Yeah.
Translating through
sound, light, vibration.
It's all the same. It all ties into this whole energetic response.
Yeah, and sound healing is becoming a lot more popular now as well. Yeah. Breath work, you're working with the energy of the breath, the life force, the innate intelligence, same thing we're working with. Yeah. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's I keep hearing about this, great awakening that's occurring, and it feels like it.
The Aquarius age.
Hey, there you go.
I think there's an awakening and a stagnation kind of at the same time. But for me, I always like to focus on the things that are expanding rather than the things that are constricting. And there's definitely more people seeing this work, wanting to try it, wanting to experience it, because there's something in them that's wanting to have happiness and peace. And we know that we don't have that here right now.
Yeah.
Most people aren't happy or peaceful in their life. It's unfortunate but true. If you look at the statistics in depression and things like that, especially in Australia and post-COVID and isolation and things like that, it's definitely had an impact on us as a society.
Yeah.
When was it, 6 years ago or something? Now people get all it's like time stopped since then. They're still trying to work out their who they are and what they want, just tip their life upside down. And we get a lot of kids now with school refusal and things. It's really interesting working with them now and their anxieties.
School refusal?
Yeah, it's a thing now. No.
Interesting.
Because they were used to being homeschooled, or there's a lot of anxiety about, going to camp or leaving their families and things.
Wow.
Yeah.
How are they going to possibly live a normal life, without integrating into society?
Well, you can't.
You can't.
You have to have community.
Yeah.
You know, but some of them have community online instead. You know, like they've got friends on their video games and things like that, but it's not the same, no. So you need community you need to feel part of something.
Yeah.
And even our practitioners, what they love is being part of our community, being part of something that they feel understood, seen. People have similar value systems, you know.
Yeah. That's what I like about Saint.
Yeah.
Like these like community wellness places.
Yeah. Well, you get to meet people that you wouldn't meet otherwise.
Similar people to your headspace.
Yeah.
They're willing to invest in that.
Yeah, well, you have to be.
Yeah, you have to be willing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm conscious of time. I wanted to ask you a few just general questions about your life.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I don't like talking about my life.
That's okay.
I help everyone else. This isn't about me.
Yeah. So, what's the biggest thing over the last 2 years you've changed your mind on?
Probably one of the biggest things for me, like I got divorced after being with my ex-partner for 14 years, and I think I always, as a child, would have assumed that was a failure, you know, and then you get older and you realise life happens, changes happen, people change, life changes, experiences, a whole bunch of things occur, and I don't think that ending in that concept is a failure at all. In fact, it's one of the most things I'm proud of in my life is that relationship, but also choosing myself and what my soul said at that point in time. Even though it's the hardest thing to do, but I don't look at it as a failure. I feel very lucky that I was ever able to experience love like that in my life. Whereas when I was a child, I would have thought, I've just done what my mum's done and I promised myself I never would. And still some society really struggle with the idea of divorce. And it was a struggle for me initially too, because I never wanted to be a divorced person. Like, I don't ever want to be that. And then you realise life is a little bit more complex than the sanctions that we place on it. And I think to have unconditional love for that person for a lifetime is far more paramount than being married to them.
Okay. Do you think there would have been an ebb and flow where you could have stayed together and figured it out?
I believe that things happen as they happen. And I think what's happened was meant to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't because it was bad. I think a lot of people think that if you separate, it's because something was bad. No, the people get shocked when I describe my ex-partner and how I say he's the best person ever. Like, people are like, it's weird. Like, why aren't you together then? Well, because, you know, we're not meant to be at this point. But he's still a great person. You don't have to hate someone to not be with them.
Makes it easier.
Makes it easier, yeah, for sure. But for me, having someone who I love unconditionally in my life is more important than, you know, the concept of marriage. Marriage is still important to me, though. I would like to get married again, you know, but I don't have any bitterness around it. You know, I would like to still have that idea of finding my person for the rest of my life. But it's okay that things have changed too, you know.
So what do you think about the notion of like till death do us part?
I think I did that.
The death of the relationship?
Yeah.
It's an interesting...
Death of myself, of that version.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. So I did do death till us part, just not in the traditional sense.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, I was a different person. I think that person who got married died. And the new one needed a different path. And that's okay. And I'd say if he was here, he would agree with that.
Really?
100%. So I still did do that. Everything I said I'd do, I still did.
So do you think that like the growth, that we're growing as humans more than maybe we used to is when marriage was like a primary faculty in society? What's changing?
Oh, so much is changing, but we're changing much quicker. Like we come across more people in a day than, you know, our parents would have come across in a year. So life is different. Social media has changed things. Our value systems around relationships have changed things. So for me, I still consider myself a traditional person. I still would like that traditional concept of marriage. But I think life isn't as simple as it used to be as well.
Yeah. You don't think so? So does marriage hold a place in that still?
I would like to think so, yeah, but in a different way.
What way?
Well, for example, like, you know, in our parents' era, a lot of women stayed married because they needed to financially,
Okay.
you know. So you want people, it was because it was so expected that you stay married. But then on the other hand, they didn't give up as easily as maybe someone of our generation would. We give up a bit too soon.
That's where I think I keep getting stuck with this whole idea. It's like, are we just giving up to it? Like you hear about, you know, example, these kids that can't even go to school. Imagine them trying to like maintain a 40, 50, 60-year relationship.
Really challenging. I don't know if they could.
Exactly. They couldn't.
Yeah.
So have we lost our ability to just like fucking grit in and hold on?
I think so, because we've got an instant gratification society as well.
So what is that doing to us?
Well, you can go on your Instagram and message any girl that you choose to. You know, the access is different. Yeah. The access wasn't there before. And the access before was, you know, to be intimate with a woman, you had to be in a relationship with her to some degree. That's not the way life works necessarily anymore. So to get men to commit is different.
So you think it's
and women too.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got some ideas around this
for
sure. Like if it is like easy to get for a guy to just have sex, like there's less inclination to want to.
And the grass is greener, and that, you know, why, you know, getting a relationship is hard. People know that.
Yeah.
So if you can get the benefits of that relationship superficially, and that's enough for you in that moment in time, that can serve a purpose. But I do think deep down we are ingrained to want to be loved and share love with someone and have a deep connection with someone. I do believe that.
Yeah, you can't do that with
can't do it superficially. Yeah. No, you can't possibly.
So going back to what I was saying before, like, and I'm not like using your experience specifically as like asking you this, but like, could there have been a scenario where, as an example to like anyone listening, or even myself in 14 years time of marriage, like to push through and ebb and flow into the changing of the humans and keep going?
I think that's the crossroads, isn't it?
Yeah.
The crossroads is that way or this way.
Yeah.
And I don't think either way is wrong necessarily, as long as it feels in alignment with you. But also I know that I sat on that decision for a very long period of time. It wasn't a reactionary one as such.
Yeah.
You know, I think, and I know myself well enough to know my emotions.
Yeah.
But, you know, it wasn't a throw my toys out of the cot scenario and then just leave and you know, I've never been like that. I think coming from a family that didn't have that unity made me want unity more. But, you know, there was definitely moments in times where I'm like, is this a pattern? Am I repeating a pattern? Or is this a genuine feeling? Is this a genuine emotion? And I think you've got to always work on yourself and unpacking those things. And, you know, I've always had a psychotherapist or a transpersonal psych, you know, assist me with my unpacking. But, yeah, only you know the answer to that. Sometimes staying with someone who's not right's a waste of time necessarily, for lack of a better word as well. That's not the right decision too. You know, I've seen people, they're together for a long period of time, but they died anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, pick your hard, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, perfect world, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
But life's not perfect.
So how do you choose better next time to be with somebody who can grow, assuming you then completely change again in another 10 years'
I wouldn't have changed a thing.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was.
I mean, for the next one,
I would still do the exact same thing, which is just follow the feeling at the time. I think for me, I was meant to have that experience, you know. I don't want to be guarded or fearful or think too much in my head about things like a pros and cons list. You know, that's not my nature.
It's my nature.
Yeah, no. I just don't think love's like that.
Yeah.
Is love enough? No, it's not either. All right, so you've got to balance both worlds again. You need balance always. But, I don't think I would change. I like my pure heart. I don't need to change that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the kindest thing anyone's ever done for you?
The kindest? I don't know. I struggle to receive. I definitely am more of a giver.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had lots of kind things, so I can't narrow it down to one. But I am a simple person. Like just someone being considerate of me is something that I really appreciate. Like making my life easier is nice.
Yeah.
Just someone thinking of me. You know, a lot of this.
Do you have an example of a moment?
Oh, there would be lots, but I think we're in a pretty selfish society where people really struggle to think outside of themselves. So if someone takes the time to actually think about you and do something for you, it's a real action. They've had to really do that. And I don't think it's as natural to some people as it should be.
Yeah.
You know, they're self-centered or in their own land, in their own lens, thinking about them all the time. And, you know, there's times for that. I probably could do that more. But, yeah, I think when someone really tries to put themselves in your shoes and has that empathy and that kindness to want to make your life better, then that's something that should be really appreciated, whether that's friendships, relationships, family, clients, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could only recommend one book for somebody to read over and over again for the rest of their life, what would it be?
You'd like to make me pick one thing for the rest of their life, don't you?
It has to be, means it has to be really good.
I'm going to sound so corny, but I don't care. The Power of Now really was a great book.
It's a great book.
It changed my life because he expressed it. Again, none of his ideas are necessarily new, but the way he articulated it was new. And then that becomes a movement. And the idea of the pain body was something that I really needed to hear at that point in time and still always need to be reminded of. So I've read the book numerous times and enjoy it every time. There's also a book that's not as popular called How Would Love Respond? And that was an interesting book for me. I've just forgotten the author's name, but that was an interesting book for me because I always ask myself now before I react to something, how would love respond?
I like that.
So it just changed something in me. I was a little bit more malleable when I was younger, though. I'd read like a book and actually put the changes in pretty quickly, whereas now it takes me a bit longer. And I have seen the changes in that. I'm like, patterns are a little bit more ingrained, but you know, at the end of the day, I like who I am, and I think that I'm grateful for that. You know, not everyone likes who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. My stomach's talking to you. It said, feed me. When
Hello.
lunch yet. It's the time, Adam. Hungry.
Well, wrapping up. Wrapping up.
Did you hear?
No, I didn't. But
I was
we probably got on the mic. Hello. Part 2.
Yeah. Oh, Adam. Do you speak stomach? No.
Sometimes.
Yeah, well.
So wrapping up, what's one lesson you'd hope that everyone takes away from this conversation?
It's not mine to say. They have to come up with their own lesson from that. Yeah.
Okay. And is there anything you're excited about at the moment that you'd like to let listeners in on?
I'm not excited by much.
You gotta give me something.
I wouldn't say I'm an excitable person. Is that weird?
Anything work-wise? Any progressions? Anything you want to share?
I just got back from Mexico. That was fun. Where am I going next week? I'm going to Queensland. That'll be fun. Sold out UK. Going to go do some teaching over there.
Cool.
Some changes in the business, getting it, you know, a little bit more structured and things. I'm excited about where that could go. A bit nervous as well. But yeah, I try to be quite an equanimous being.
Equanimity.
You know, I
Shout out to the Vipassana again.
Shout out to Goenka. No, I don't know. I could probably be a little bit more excited about things.
You do.
Yeah, I'm just
You do. As long as you're happy.
See what happens, you know,
As long as
because
you're happy and having
expectations are not great sometimes to have. you know. So I try to be very open-minded and non-expectant of anything, because then, you know, you're open to a possibility of something otherwise.
For sure. And where can people find you if they're interested?
You can find me on Instagram, Adam, Dr. Sarah Jane Cairo. Website, Dr. Sarah Jane Cairo as well. Otherwise, Spinal Energetics Instagram or Spinal Energetics website.
Okay. And last question for you. What do you think the meaning of life is?
That I'd like to know. Do you know what the meaning of life is?
I think I've got some general ideas.
Yeah. For me, in terms of my meaning of life, what I've gathered from the life that I've had anyway is just to love and be loved.
Most people say love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else is there?
To create.
That comes from love, though. And for love.
And spite. Creation can come from spite.
Yeah. I think inspiration, though, there still comes from this idea of self-love then, and wanting to express that and share your artistry with the world.
Yeah.
You know? So if you didn't love yourself, you wouldn't be able to share it.
Yeah, fair.
So I think love is really the foundation of everything. And connection. Love and connection.
Great. Dr. Sarah Jane?
Yes, Adam. Did I
Thank
pass?
you.
What mark did I get out of 10?
A+. Everyone gets an A just for...
Yeah, you give it to everyone.
Everyone who comes on the podcast gets an A.
I'm going to be special.
You are special.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
You are loved.
Yeah,
You're appreciated.
All that
you
jazz.
are great. I've run over words.
Thanks for having me.
Not much of a words of affirmation guy.
Aren't you?
No, not at all.
We would not go well.
I dated a girl that was a words of affirmation.
How did that go for you?
I had to learn how to do words of affirmation.
Did you mean it when you said it?
Well, I think somebody who... Hold on, let me finish. Somebody who doesn't use words of affirmation as a primary way of expressing love naturally doesn't feel like they mean it, but...
Eventually.
No.
Oh.
The person receiving it feels like it's true, and just purely, I think, by the person trying to make the effort to make the person that's feeling it feel loved, even if the person saying it doesn't believe it, but the person receiving it believes it, it's still love. Because the effort and energy and the attempt to try is there.
Well, I think that always feels nice when someone's attempting to try.
Yeah.
To hear you and have you be seen.
Yeah.
But no, I'm an everything, really. I want everything. I want affirmations. I want you doing stuff for me.
Don't be greedy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it explains a lot all of a sudden, doesn't it?
I love it. I love it. All right. And if anyone's made it this far and has enjoyed the episode, please go to YouTube and search That One Time with Adam Metwally. Click subscribe, like the video, and leave us a comment. Till next time.